the surprising thing, I think, for each and every one of us, is that we are a masterpiece. Now, I want you to think about it. Many of us were raised in an environment that didn't make us think so, right? Yeah, it didn't make us think quite we were the masterpieces that we are. But if we follow the teaching and the truth that we profess here, that God is all there is, and we are one in an emanation of Spirit of God, and God is love, harmony, peace, joy, power, service, kindness. If we believe that, and we're the creative essence of that vibrational goodness, we have to be a masterpiece. There's nothing else we could be. Now, the caveat to all of this is we are a masterpiece, and we get to choose how much of that masterpieciness we want to display. We can put forth all of it, or very little of it. It's up to us. We get to decide. You see, some of us were conditioned to be something less than the goodness from which we're made. Matthew Fox, a beautiful, amazing Dominican father who left the Catholic Church to become an Episcopal priest because his philosophy and theosophy didn't match that of the Catholic Church. And the main point of contention was Matthew Fox did not believe that we were born in original sin. He believed we're born as the original blessing, that we are the way God life knows itself, and we're co-creators with God. We're here as the expression of God. Creation is not making something out of nothing. It is bringing spirit into form. And that's the creative process, that co-creative process. So the original blessing, the good thing is, whatever teachings or experiences we've had, we have the ability always to become more. We have the ability always to step into a better version of ourselves. And I'm ready, are you? A better version, the next version of ourselves right here and right now, which is calling to us to express more life, to be a more beneficial presence on the planet. You know, any of the limitations that we have in life are really created by our human mind. Our human mind has the subjective tendency to look at the conditions of life. You know, look at the conditions of life. Look at the mirror and see what's reflected and go, oh, I'm not liking that so much, and then feeling less than, or looking at our external experiences and feeling, oh, I don't have enough, there's not enough. I'm telling you right here, right now, this moment, right now you have everything you need. There's nothing more, because that's part of who we are and how we're made. It's about changing the thoughts in our mind, because the first principle, the God energy, the God essence, has a subjective tendency towards ultimate goodness. And that's the energy that's always calling us to know something more. We are creative and evolutionary beings, period. We're here to create and become. And it's our choice where we put our focus. Now, a lot of times in the world, we can have great loss in our life, and we forget that goodness is present. You see, it's the heart-opening experiences, either the great joy and wonder that we feel, that makes us creative. Have you been there where you're just so inspired? You're so inspired because of the goodness and the joy. It's just overflowing. Nobody's been there? Oh, you have. So I've seen you. I know you. You're there expressing, creating. It's there. But it's also the heart-opening experiences that come from great sorrow and great loss. It's when we get to a place that I don't want to be here anymore. This is too painful, too difficult, too hard, that we have the creative expression of doing things in a new way, creating something new. Now, as I said, our human mind gets focused on the conditions, so it's the human mind that keeps us stuck in the suffering and the sadness, and it keeps us stuck. It's the spiritual mind that keeps us focused on the good. Every cloud has a silver lining. There's good in all things. It's when we're willing to transform where we are is when things change. Now I'm going to ask you, Matthew Fox also said there's 5 deadly sins that are modern deadly sins in life right now. Right now. And the first one is wrongdoing. When we add more suffering to a world that's already suffering, and we know it. Now, oftentimes we're doing the best we can until we know better. But when we know better and do it anyway, that is a deadly sin. He said passivity is a deadly sin. When we pretend we don't see what's going on. We put our blinders on and we just try to take this road when we really see the problems that are calling for our attention. He said dualistic thinking, when we put things in boxes of bad and good. Now, this doesn't mean evaluating what's better and best in your own life. Of course, better and best with what you see. But this is making somebody bad and wrong, or something bad and wrong, and something good and better. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. And then he also said, besides passivity, of course I missed this one, habitual thinking. When we keep doing something the same way over and over again and expecting different results. You see, we're always creating. There's not a time, because our mind is creative, but we're either creating the same thing over and over again, or we're creating something new. The habitual thinking is not going to get us into the place that evolution and that ultimate good is calling us. And the last thing that's a modern deadly sin is lack of passion. It's the lack of passion. You know, we teach, we profess, one of the main tenets of our teaching and our philosophy is change your thinking, change your life. Because we have a mind that is creative. Change your thinking, change your life. But what motivates us to make that change? A lot of us, most of us know what we want, what's good for us, what's good for the world, what's good for others. But it's like when you have that hot, right out of the oven, melty chocolate chip cookie. And you know it's not the best for you right now. There are certainly times it is, but you know in this time it's not the best. What motivates you not to eat it? Nothing. I didn't mean that. I'm very sorry. I didn't mean that. It's like what, it's interesting because I really chose this theme, the surprising thing, without really knowing what it meant. So I went in the computer and I plugged in her surprising thing, and up popped a book by Daniel Pink. And I've read a book of his, The Whole New Mind. He's in the business world, but he's also in the consciousness realm. And his new book is Drive, the surprising thing about what really motivates us. And he talked about motivation, the thing that motivates us to change our thinking and change our life. I mean, we have to have the motivation to do it. Because it takes conscious choice and action to keep on keeping on. And he's saying the 21st century is a whole different ball game. The things that used to motivate us don't motivate us anymore. Now, I know about 100,000 years ago that our brains just enlarged. Poof. We just changed from being kind of animalistic and having that fight and flight brain response to having a creative instrument that could create new ideas. But still, it was a time in the world where it wasn't too easy to live, and we had to have our biological needs met. So the first drive, what scientists say, is biological needs. Food, thirst, and sex. Those don't sound too bad, but they're not quite enough. We will always have those, but when we evolve, our drives evolve also. And what really gets us going. So from there in the world, we went from those biological drives to the external drives, reward and punishment, where we found out, if I do that, I get this reward. And if I do that, I get this reward. And if I do that, I get punished. And so that was our drive for a long time. But what Daniel Pink said in his new book, after 4 decades of really intense scientific study, there's a new drive for the human mind. It's intrinsic. And if we see the young people coming out of college, we can see the same thing that used to drive us in the 80s and the 90s. Don't drive them. This intrinsic value is about joy and purpose, about things that matter. It's about being in community and belonging and doing things that make a difference. He said that this mind that we have now is because our times are more complex, definitely more interesting, and they're calling us to think differently. And so our mind wants to be self-directed. Our mind wants to master things and be creative and learn how to do things, and it also wants to be part of a greater good. So we need to start recognizing, well, what drives me? What's going to convince me to change my thinking, change my life? And Matthew Fox said there's really 3 roads to change and creativity, which is the change we're looking for. And the first road is going inward. And when we sing, I release and I let go, although it's really fun, it means releasing the conditioned part of our mind that keeps us less than our magnificence. It means releasing all those old stories that keep us stuck in drama and keep us stuck in all the stuff that makes us small and little. So we have to take the journey inward to empty ourselves out, so we have space for that creativity to bubble up, because it's always there. The Talmud said, over every blade of grass, there's an angel whispering, grow, grow. And that's what's in us. You know what Jesus did, he transformed what he had in his hands. He changed water into wine. He expanded the loaves and fishes. He healed the sick. He raised the dead. Right what was in front of him, he transformed, because he'd done his work. He already had that space to let that creativity bubble up, that he could do that work. And it's up to you and me, because it's not what happens to us in life. It's what we do with what happens. That's going to change our experience. What we do with what happens to us. So first of all, we have to create the space to make space for the creativity to bubble up, for that light bulb to go on and shine, for the inspiration to pop through, because inherent in everything is, whether it's a solution, a possibility, a creative potential, in everything always. So boom. And then the next step is the outward journey, where we go out and manifest that. And I'm going to talk about the importance of putting legs on your dreams, making your inspiration, giving purpose to your good idea. Now I want you to think of something in your life right now, because we all have good ideas. So if you don't have a good idea, it's because you got to clean out a little bit. So go home and sing I release and I let go many times over and over again. And then when those inspirations bubble up, it's about, what am I going to do about them? What's the next step? And we have 2 board members here that did something really wonderful this last week, and Dr. Jim Van Cleve, who is on the archive board for Home Office, which is up in Golden, Colorado. And the archives hold all the history of our teaching, all the amazing, I don't know how many rooms it is. Is it 1 big room, Jim, or 8 rooms, all our history, but it's all volunteer, trying to get this all organized and put together, and it's our legacy. And so Dr. Jim had the idea, well, gosh, I think I could make a difference here. And he incorporated our board president, Jeff Kuba, to use his technological skills. And so on their own, with their wives, of course they had to have the wives in the fun part too, go up to Golden, Colorado, and truly, the 4 of them went in to make a difference here at our center, for the Centers for Spiritual Living, to really make some progress. And boy, they came home ignited and excited and joy-filled, because if they had just left it a good idea, what would it be? A good idea. If we don't put legs on our good ideas, they don't happen. It's what you do with what you have. We have to transform what's going on. Albert Einstein says humanity needs a substantially new way of thinking if the world is going to survive. And that's why we're here, for this substantially new way of thinking. The surprising thing is we have, again, everything we need to make it happen right now. It's what we do with what we have. Now, I explained how to put a good idea into action. So think about one of those good ideas that you want to put into action. Because sometimes it's just the fun part of creativity. But at other times there's deeper work to do. And I got a message from Reverend Bobby this week. And we have a marketing team going on that's really intent on getting circles going. Circles of interest, circles of caring, to really use the gifts and talents of our congregants and expand our center. And I know Reverend Bobby is very focused. She's got several different ideas, but one is really expanding our LGBTQ movement here, and she's doing a lot of beautiful work in that in many ways we'll hear more about. But she sent me a message that she has a speaker lined up to really get this program going, and I looked online and wow. This is about truly turning not just disappointment, but sadness and grief into something greater. Sadness and grief into something more. And this story is about Mary Lou Wallen. And Mary Lou Wallen was raised in an environment of a very devout, fundamental Christian church. And she held on to her beliefs and felt really good about them, and it was an important part of her life. And she attended church, and it was a significant, just very significant in her life. She had 2 daughters, and when her youngest daughter went away to college, I think it was 1980, I'm not sure what year, 85 I believe, 87 maybe 85, she got a letter from her daughter, and it said, "Hi Mom, da-da-da-da. I want to let you know I found out something new about myself. I love women." And Mary Lou said she read that and she went into the bathroom and threw up. It was so against everything she knew about life. She didn't know a different way. She'd been taught totally different. She wasn't a bad person. She was an uninformed person. And so she received that letter and she answered back, "I will never accept this part of you. Not only is it a terrible waste of your life, it is ethically and spiritually wrong." Well, you can imagine what that did to the relationship. And over the next 9 years, now Anna, her daughter, was a social worker with a master's degree and doing good work in the world, and Mary Lou was a nurse. So as long as they talked on that subject, they were fine. But when Anna brought over her partner, there was just a wall that was so thick. And Mary Lou knew the wall was there, but she didn't know anything to do about it. So about 9 years after this rocky relationship had transpired, Mary Lou received another letter from her daughter. And it said, "Mom, I'm disowning you as my mother right now. You are my biological mother, but that's it. What you've done to me in your shaming has wounded my soul and damaged my soul so deeply." And it ended with, "Heal thyself, mother." Well, Mary Lou didn't do anything about it. She said, at first she thought, gosh, I should grab my keys and get in the car and make this better. But she didn't. And 6 months later, a call came in 1997 that her daughter had committed suicide. I know the pain and grief that comes from the loss of a child. And I know I've always thanked God that my last words to her were, "I love you." So I can only imagine the pain and grief that comes when you have no reconciliation at all. I can only imagine how devastated you'd be from that experience. Well, Mary Lou went on to do something amazing with her life. She's still very involved in the Christian church, but she started a ministry called Teach, to educate about consequences of homophobia. Pretty amazing. I've listened to her online, a beautiful woman, has a lot to share in the world. Wow. We can do it. It's in us. So we can certainly turn good ideas into inspirations, into actions. We can certainly take negative experiences, whether they be small disappointments or huge suffering, and turn them into wisdom and knowledge. That's, as I said, where the blessing is. When we garner knowledge and wisdom and understanding from things. But what do we do when we look out there and see man's inhumanity to man? There's a time when I believe this is surfacing up so we can heal it. Well, I was certainly in tears on Friday when I watched the taking down of the Confederate flag at the State House, Columbia, South Carolina. But even more so when I heard of the action, what their governor, Nikki Haley did, Governor Nikki Haley. When she was signing the bill to take down this Confederate flag that was certainly a symbol against the civil rights movement, she made sure 9 pens were used in this significant and important decision to break down the walls of separation. And each one of those 9 pens was given to a family of the victim that was killed in the Charleston church, to remind them that as horrific as that event was, that life wasn't lost in vain. You and I might not have the opportunity to do something on that level, but we have the opportunity every single day to send out our goodness, our prayers, our thoughts, to change things for the better. Take off those blinders. Remember to focus on the ultimate good that's calling us to express. I love the way our community cares for each other. And I get some beautiful inspirations from people. And Reverend Wendy Teon sent me an inspiration yesterday. And we know the importance of spiritual practice. Do you know that goodness and love can be taught? Do you know that we can make new practices in our life to have a greater understanding? It can be taught. It can be practiced. Ernest Holmes said, teach, practice, practice, teach. That's all we're here to do. We can help each other. Remember the good things. We do the best we can until we know better. And we have to keep understanding and knowing better. So this is a spiritual practice that will be, that I thought was a beautiful, beautiful thought. The heart of most spiritual practice is simply this. Remember. Remember who you are. Remember what you love. Remember what is sacred. Remember what is true. Remember that, and that someday you will die, and that this day is a gift. Remember how you wish to live. Remember how you wish to use the energy, the magnificence, the masterpiece that you are right today. Some days it's simply getting out of bed. And other days it's creating inspiring new things for yourself. We don't know, but every day there's something that can pull you to the conditions of ultimate good instead of the conditions of the world. Something that's calling you for more. Remember how you wish to live. And I added 2 lines. Remember, the greatest gift of creation is love. When you don't know the correct answer, when you're not sure how you're supposed to be, power yourself up. Turn on the juice. Turn on the juice. And ask, what would love do? Love is that vibrant, creative energy that wants the best for you and others. So turn on the juice, listen to the answer, and then, my friends, my knowing and my wish for each one of us is that we fight for it. We don't say no, we don't push it away, but we step into that possibility and go, I am going to fight for this. I'm going to turn this into something more. My life is meant to be awesome. I am not here to suffer or be less than. I have everything I need right now. So I think we should just practice that. Right now in this moment, I'm powered up. I turn on the light of inspiration, the light of love, and the light of self-givingness. I matter. So do you. Together, we can change the world. And the one thing is, and we're doing it. And I'm inviting you to fight for it. And so it is. I bless you all for being here. I bless you. I love you. I appreciate who you are and who you're becoming. Thank you. Thank you.